Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Are here today with the deeply soulful, beautiful, heartful Tiffany Persons.
Thank you.
Tiffany and I met in an interesting way. My friend dragged me to this personal development seminar, and I tend to be a little skeptical of some of these spaces based on my experiences with some of them being misaligned. And so I sort of went reluctantly. My friend found a lot of value in it. It came at an interesting time in my life too, where I was reevaluating a lot of professional pathways. And we got to connect with different people throughout the 48-hour seminar. And Tiffany and I had this beautiful chat. And I felt very clear that I thought Tiffany was special and connected to her, and I felt like we were going to be in each other's lives. And then at the end of the second day, they do this exercise where they ask you to go find the one person you felt the most connected to. And I knew Tiffany was going to have 80 people feeling connected to her. Okay. I also kudos to me, my therapy journey, because 10 years ago, I would have known everyone's name, been the extrovert of the situation. And that weekend, I just really didn't. I was just very much taking a backseat, very focused on quality, not quantity, and just slowing down a bit. And so I knew Tiffany was my connection. There was only one for me. And then I was a little nervous because it felt a little vulnerable because I knew she'd have so many people that felt connected to her. So when we went, no, I did. I was like, oh no, she's going to, maybe it's not me. Anyway, so then when I went to connect to you and you chose me, it was so wildly validating, but a greater lesson for me, which was what I'm seeing is accurate and what I'm feeling is accurate. In my history of unhealthy attachment or things like that, previously hadn't always fully trusted what I see. And so it was many things at once meeting you, Tiffany.
That's awesome. What a beautiful story. I didn't know that backstory.
Oh, you didn't know that?
I don't remember us talking about that. I just knew that you were the one. You were the one for me.
Yeah. And then, of course, just for the record, 8 other people picked her. So I just want to make that clear. My instincts were not off. She was the one for lots of people,
That's so cool.
which I understand.
So nice
It was
to
cool.
know. That's so just feels good.
Well, you do. You
Small
have beautiful
blessings.
energy.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read her bio so you guys can get to know her a little bit too. And then we will dig into this conversation. So Tiffany Persons is a prolific and award-winning creative through her 3 founder roles as a feature film and television producer, commercial casting director, and social impact leader. As the founder of Persons Pictures, she most recently produced the psychological thriller Blink Twice, directed by Zoe Kravitz. Tiffany's producing work began in the music video genre at the height of its art form, where she worked with iconic artists ranging from Missy Elliott to Mick Jagger. Tiffany's ultimate intention with all mediums is to deliver stories that spark honest and transformative cultural conversations. In addition to Person Pictures, Tiffany is the founder of Tiffany Company Casting, one of the leading commercial casting companies with clients including Apple, BMW, and Nike. They have been awarded 3 Cannes Grand Prix Lions Awards for the Microsoft ad campaign We All Win, which celebrated gaming youth with disabilities. MasterCard's True Name ad campaign, honoring trans and non-binary customers' rights and identities as the first credit card company to have their chosen name on bank cards. And the March for Our Lives ad campaign, Generation Lockdown, highlighting the unflinching truth of the trauma of gun violence on school children. For her 3rd founder role, Tiffany created the nonprofit organization Shine On Sierra Leone that for the past 19 years has brought innovative and highly respected educational, health, financial, agricultural, and sustainable building for the Kono region. Her work is also celebrated with several awards, including the recipient of the United Nations Women of the World Award and the International Eckhart Witzingman Award for Creative Responsibility. Based in Los Angeles with her 5 children, Tiffany is a proud native of Detroit and a descendant of the Fula, Mende, and Temini people in Sierra Leone. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you. I love all of
On
my
this-
time with you.
I know, me too. And on this gloomy day in LA, it's never gloomy here. We're both in our sweats. This is what we got for you.
That's right.
I was like, I just feel like being cozy. So we're being cozy.
Yeah, I'm glad you honored that too, because I was thinking like, okay, colors and this, and I was like, this is actually what I want to be in right now, and let's just be authentic and be here. So
I thought about
fully here,
glamming it up just for the joy of it, and then I said, who has the energy?
exactly.
Not me
Who is
today.
this for? Who is it for?
Me usually, but I don't have it in me today.
Perfect. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either. I think this was perfect. You look
Perfect.
Great, though.
You always look great though.
Silly.
So, Tiffany, you have a very unique journey when it comes to motherhood. And I would love you to take us on the ride.
Wow. The ride of motherhood. Well, my ride of motherhood started at 24 years old. I found myself as a senior in college and pregnant in Atlanta. And it was a really interesting thing, especially in this, like, I'm going to share this and I'm going to be really authentic because I know that I understand that everyone has a different viewpoint. But at the time, as a college student full-time, the idea of having a child was the scariest thing in my life. And I decided not to do it. I had decided that I wasn't going to be able to keep this child. And so something very interesting happened. And I'm going to share this. I think it is really a part of this longer journey of how I ended up being the mother of 5 children and how ironic I think that is. So I'm thinking I'm not going to have this child, but one day I'm walking to class and there's something in the distance. I'm late for class, as I normally was, at least a few times a week. And I see something on the floor and I hear this whisper that says, "Look at it." I don't know why, but as I get closer to it, it looks like it's a newspaper pamphlet. Or a newspaper, like a little small newspaper. And so when I get to it, I look down and it is a picture of an embryonic sac with a baby in it. And it says, "She's a child, not a choice." And I'm like, okay. So I pick up the paper, I go to class and I'm reading it. And of course it's, what you think it is. And so I've always been, or probably since I was about 21, I've been very spiritual and always connecting to what is beyond me here. And you can call it God or whatever, but mine was just simply, I'm connecting to something greater. And so I said, if this is really a sign, if this is something you're really trying to tell me, you're going to have to give me another sign, because this is just, no, I'm not going to go for this. So I get home that day. And when I get home, there is a message on my answering machine. You remember those? Do you remember those?
I do, actually. Yeah. I'm not quite that young.
And so I clicked on the answering machine and it's like, "Oh, this is Cindy from so-and-so clinic, calling to let you know that the doctor had an emergency and will not be able to do your appointment." Like, who has a cancellation for an abortion? Like, that's just very strange. So I'm like, all right, I guess that's the second notice. And so I get clever and I'm like, well, just give me one more sign. Just give me one more sign.
You're like me. I'm like, I need it 10 times to be sure. I don't believe you. Also, I don't necessarily want this. So we must be clear.
By the way, clearly I had morning sickness pretty badly. I wasn't able to attend school. And so this is the day before the evening before the actual procedure, and I was told that I couldn't eat or drink anything after midnight. So I go to the movies with my best friend at the time and her son, who was maybe 6, 7 months old, a few months old. And we go see, oh, what is this movie? Meg Ryan, Nick Nolte, Falling from Heaven. What was it? It's about an angel falling from heaven. Nick Nolte's the angel, and he falls from heaven. Fantastic movie, right? So I go see this movie. I'm sobbing at the end, just sobbing, just thinking it's about heaven. Oh, it's all these beautiful things. And at the time, my child's father and I were calling this baby, this embryo, this baby inside of me, we were calling it Dawn. And we were calling it Dawn because she was conceived at the dawn of our relationship. And so I'm at the end of this film, crying, can't move, and the screen goes black, and it says, "For Dawn." I'm dead. I'm done. I'm just like, I'm done. So I'm in the car now with my best friend, and I'm just crying, and I'm telling her what has happened, the 3 signs that I've gotten. And she said, "You know what? I've been wanting to talk to you about this, but I didn't know how. But I have this book, or I have something in this book that I read that I want to share with you." She takes me to her house. It's about 11:30. By the way, I'm hungry. So it's like 11:30. And so she takes me to her house and she hands me this book, and it's called Talking to Heaven. And in this book, she has highlighted this passage for me, specifically for me, and it says, "As angels, we cannot tell you what to do. You do have free will, but we can and will give you signs, and it's up to you to follow those signs." What?
This is crazy.
So that was it. That was the moment. And I was like, all right, give me some food. I'm eating, I'm done. This is it. I'm having this child. And the next morning I woke up and I never had morning sickness again. I was able to finish my college year, my final senior year, without, wow, this is kind of like moving. I'm just thinking about how powerful that was. Never had morning sickness again. So I graduated.
Wildly powerful.
Yeah, I graduated from my senior year of college. I studied in journalism, majored in film, minored in journalism, and I walked across the stage to get my degree, and she kicked. That was like the first time I felt her kick. So that was my introduction to motherhood. Moved to Los Angeles, had my first child. It was an intense ride. It was hard, really, really hard. Her father and I stayed together for about a year and a half, and then I was a single mom. And so I raised her mostly as a single mom, because I'm going to like skip forward. I raised her mostly as a single mom. I had 2 significant relationships during her childhood until she was 18. And I did my best. It was the hardest thing I have ever done. I can't believe it that I made it. That's all I can say. And then it was such a journey for me to get to the finish line. And then finally at the finish line, she's moved on, she's moved away, she's, becoming a pastry chef. Everything is great. She's moved out of the
I love
home.
that.
Yes, and by the way, my daughter was born and her name is November. November Sky. And the light of my life. And she's moved out. I'm so excited. I look around when I wake up in the morning. I don't have anyone to worry about what they need to eat, if they have to get to school, if they have anything after. And I'm just reveling in the beauty of this moment, right?
Yeah.
Also, I have my casting company is going well. I'm just really able to focus on me, developing myself. And then April 27th, 2020 comes, and my brother, who's had a long history of struggling with addiction and deep wounds that he has, he goes to jail, and I have about 30 minutes to decide whether to inherit his 4 teenage children. They are 11 at the time. They are 11, 13, 14, and 16, every stage of puberty. Of course, I said yes. It took me about 24 hours to make the decision. 30 minutes of that was when I really sat down and reckoned with the fact that my life was going to be different. People have said, I can't believe you did that. But really, what choice did we have? I know I had a choice, but for me, I didn't really have a choice. I just needed to be with, kind of like saying goodbye to what I thought was. And I did.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought was, I thought my life, I didn't realize that my liberation was bound up in these 4 children. But now I know that it is.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wait, can we just unpack that a bit? Can you explain that to me?
Absolutely. I'm devoted to the understanding that things are not happening to us, but happening for us. I really believe that.
I do too.
That, right? So every thing that happens is an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to step into our next greatest self. And so I know that. And when I look back at raising my daughter as a single parent, it was exactly what I needed to break a cycle in the lineage of the women of my family. More on that later. But so I just realized, wow, I thought I had grown. I really thought I had kind of grown as much as I needed to grow, to be honest. And then it was wow, here we go. More growth, more opportunity to unpack, to look at things that need my attention. And boy, did they come. Boy.
Yeah, we had talked a little bit about the differences between parenting in your 20s and parenting in your 40s and 50s, and who you've had to become or how you've had to reflect on. You think being a parent is the hardest job in the entire world, largely because it requires so much mastery of self to do it really well.
Truly.
And requires deep amounts of patience and presence. In ways, part of why I'm petrified around that is because can I be the person that this person deserves? And we had talked a little bit about how you have grown and shifted through this second chance at parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love you to share with us what came up for you and how you shifted.
So when you said deep amount of patience and presence, that's exactly what I didn't have raising my daughter. I didn't have patience and I didn't have presence because I was working, we were surviving. I was trying to make sure we had food on the table. I was trying to make sure that she was going to a school that was a reputable, beautiful school, honoring who she was and is. And so I didn't have those things. I did my best, but I recognized later that I didn't appreciate just the simplicity and beauty of the moment, of just looking at this miracle that I had given birth to and not worrying about how much money I had in my bank account and not worrying about how much was coming in or not coming in, and just embracing the beauty of this moment and saying, girl, we're here. We're together. I love you. Because the beautiful thing about children, they truly are malleable. They don't understand. They don't know what we have or don't have. If their stomach is not actually hungry, they don't care about going to the best school in the country. They just want their parents. They just want love. This second time around, well, my relationship with my nieces and nephews was, I was the cool aunt that came in on my magic carpet, made Christmas.
She is the cool aunt. Yeah.
They loved me. They would come running up to me and it was so great. And I would see them once every maybe 6 months. We had never had an argument. I had never reprimanded them. It was a pretty okay, here we are. We're all together. We are together now forever. It was really interesting. And then I would say within 2 weeks, we have fallen from grace.
Woof.
And within that 2 weeks, the 16-year-old, well, actually, it turned out that it was the 11-year-old. We found out that addiction runs rampant. Let's put it that way. They had drank wine that I had left on the counter. But the interesting thing is that I had a dinner party. The wine, someone only had one glass. So the wine was up to here. And when I saw the wine bottle, it was this much wine left in it. And let me tell you why I was actually mad. I was mad at the fact that they didn't try to put water in it or something. Like, you just let
You're like, if you're
sit.
going to be, I always say this, I'm like, if you're going to be duplicitous, be excellent. Like the amount of lazy work people are doing. Like, I had someone just try and steal my identity, and they sent it to my address. So I got the credit card they opened in my name to my address. And I was like, if you're going to be shady, like, do it well. And then when I called them to dispute it, they're like, oh, what's your phone number? Like, oh, different phone number on the account. They're like, oh, do you know, like, I'm like, probably wherever they sent the items they bought on the credit card is probably who did this. I was like, bad, lazy work. Be good at being good at doing crime if you're going to do crime.
That's right. That's right. So that was funny, not funny. But now when I look back, it was an absolute cry for help. But what happened for me is that all of my past stuff came flooding back. All of the pain, the way that my mother raised me, the yelling, the short temper, the children not having agency that I felt. Like, all of that, I didn't know what to do other than to reprimand and be angry and put on punishment and do just all the old paradigm stuff.
Right.
And I knew better, but I didn't know how to be better because the people around me they didn't help me be better. I had one friend who was just like, oh, you need to tell them X, Y, and Z. Another parent who was like, yeah, they need to be reprimanded. So I didn't have friends that could say, hey, this is what's going on. In this moment, call them in instead of calling them out.
Right.
I wish I could go back and redo that. And it's painful to talk about, to be honest. Of course, I didn't put my hands on them, and I haven't. But this is the shaming them. I think this is important to talk about because we have so little understanding, education, experience, really, of how to parent in a way that is inspiring our children. There's so much about life that seems unfair to all of us. And to be in those little bodies, I've kind of like just put myself in their shoes. They've had a life of trauma since they were in the womb. They've had parents that were not able to take care of them, support them. How can I expect them to come into my home and give me the respect that I want and deserve when they have never been respected in really any way?
Yeah.
So the first 2 years was deep. It was like going through hell. All of our trauma came to the forefront. We were facing the pain bodies. We can use that term. I think a lot of us know what that is. But the greatest pain that lived in all of us, we were all facing it with each other. And we all lived under one roof with each other's greatest pain and fear.
Yeah.
And then I recognized that this really is my work. My work is not to endure. My work is to truly unfold and become and incite the best parts of all of us out of each other. Basically, my work was to do this work. And
wow.
That's what I started to do.
I am very inspired by all of this because I think it takes a tremendous amount of egolessness to look at yourself and say, maybe I'm doing this wrong and maybe I can do it differently. I think a lot of what I understand from my experiences or a lot of my friends' experiences with our parents is that when we start to go to therapy or say maybe there's a different way of operating in this family system, maybe there's a different way of showing up, we're all met with a lot of resistance. You know this too. And so to push through that resistance, hold the boundary, decide, I want this to be different because I see a different possibility for us in terms of relationality is hard. And I think for a lot of parents, it's very confronting and it can feel like, well, I just messed up or I did everything wrong. And they feel blame and shame around it instead of saying, wow, what an opportunity to change how we connect and create more intimacy between us. And so I think it's really beautiful that you did this of your own accord versus maybe one of your children. Obviously they pushed you to this, but I think that you had enough awareness of yourself to say, this is my work and I need to do it, versus I think my generation, a lot of us feel like we're the ones that are sort of alerting our parents to the work or trying to help them get to a level of admitting that maybe we can work on some things. So I really admire that in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Denise. The interesting thing, I believe that when I look at my mom, I love my mom. I love my mom. She's
so cute.
She is. She used to say to me, "I'm your best friend," and I was like, "First of all, get out of here. You are not my best friend. I don't want you to be my best friend." Like,
you're like, I'm your best friend. You're not my best friend.
Exactly. But when I look now, I realize that she really is. She's been my greatest champion. However, I really can't get her to understand that children are more than just children who have to obey, and that they are more than just doing their chores properly or well, making this not black and white, good or bad. When she looks at the way her parents raised her, even though it was really challenging, she's like, they did their best, and she lauds them, which is fantastic. And so when you just said the shame, like she doesn't want to feel shame. So because she doesn't want to feel shame, she refuses to really look at anything that she's done as not the best way forward, especially because she came from that.
Yeah.
I feel that I am the generation that can make the change because I am of two. Understand that it's not for her generation, or I believe that. I feel like, okay, it's not your work, it's mine. It's mine. I really have to pick it up. I look at parenting like marriage. It's the highway to growth. It's like, okay, you want to be a parent, you want to get married, okay, get ready, buckle your seatbelt because it's time to grow. And if not, you can white knuckle your way through it, but it will not be comfortable.
But we're not taught how to be relational. And so I think this resistance around, we're taught academics, we're taught, some of us were lucky enough, financial literacy, we're taught all these things. But the most important thing in our lives, the thing that when we die, we care the most about statistically when they've done these studies, is the relationships in our life. And yet we're not taught how to better create and foster intimacy, whether it's in our family dynamic, our romantic relationships. All relationships are mirrors for our growth. And I have found the more I work on my language to show up in a specific way, I have experienced so much less friction in a lot of the dynamics I used to experience a lot of friction in. But it's also funny because my brother and I have been through a lot together. And I recently told him, I said, I've really worked on how I speak with you. I've really tried to take a softer approach because I used to just rail into him. And he was like, you have? I don't. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm getting that you don't feel like it's a softer approach. Note for me to do some more reflection on how I'm communicating, because I think I've gone down 50x, but apparently not enough. So, but it was cool because instead of it being something where I'm yelling at him and he's feeling defensive, it was something where very quickly I was able to understand what his greater need is. Okay, maybe it's not soft enough. Good for me to know. And instead of being combative about it, it's just a deeper note for me, which is the beauty of working through these dynamics that present a lot of friction on the front end. If you work with them and mold them and tease them, you come out to a place where now you're in this really lovely place with your children.
Oh man, the children. The first years were them doing all they could to, it's funny, I wish you could talk to them to actually hear from them how they used to be. But, stealing all the time, rummaging through things would come up missing. I have 4 of them. right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Everyone's just sitting there, no one taking the blame. I felt like I was a little bit insane to be. I'm trying to be careful with my words, but it was that feeling of feeling insane. And also as a single, what?
Well, I think groundlessness. I don't think it's insane. I think it's you're used to having one child. There's a level of control. It's 4 against 1 now.
That's right. 4 against 1. Groundedness. I felt a little abused. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not.
Yeah.
I need to say that out loud. And I felt like I was in an abusive marriage. I couldn't get out.
I heard this one parent was like, I live full time with my bully, their kid. They're like, I live full time with my bully and they can't go anywhere. And I was like, yeah, parenting's rough.
Exactly. That is it. That's what it felt like. And then I'm a single mom. So I'm there with them all alone. There's no balance. There's no, hey, don't talk to your mom like that. Not that that's going to help them to change, but at least it would just make me feel like, oh, someone has my back,
Right.
But I decided to change. I decided to change. I was at my rock bottom. I had sent the girls away to boarding school. We found an amazing boarding school that gave them scholarships. Greatest gift ever. They were my co-parent. And the girls are 12, 13, 14, in the height of puberty. And I needed support. I just truly couldn't do it. We're living in a time where if your child has access to any of these digital projects, they have access to the world. I was finding out they had a boyfriend in Croatia. What? Like, one of them, I intercepted her sending a note to her friend. By the way, she's 13, sending a note to her friend in the military. Like, by the way, and now that's me like working, I had to be an octopus.
Right.
So I found this amazing school that supported me in supporting them. They were there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it was wonderful. It really helped to give them the structure, responsibility, helped them to learn how to learn. It was really hard too, because during that time, they were acting out in all kinds of ways, but I had the school as backup. They asked to come home. And I was afraid. I was really afraid, but I said yes. And it was the greatest decision that I've ever made in my life. Ever. When they got home, I decided to be different. I decided that I could change. And so instead of us going back into that same path of you didn't do what you were supposed to do, now you're in trouble, we started to talk and have conversations. And I shared when I was in the same position that they're in and why I did things, and asked them, why do you think you're doing it? And it wasn't a perfect panacea. It didn't happen overnight. But over time, we developed this relationship where we really were two humans having this human experience, trying to understand ourselves better.
Yeah.
I took myself energetically out of this hierarchical parental position that felt like I was over them and suppressing them, and you just do what I tell you to do because I know best. Because
Right.
that's what I was forced to do. It wasn't like I was never a tyrant of a parent just because I was kind of forced into being that way. So I felt, but just did it differently. I took away, for one of them who just really had a really hard time, just took away all of the devices and just said, let's be together. What I asked her to do was, okay, she loves sound bowls. So each day, it wasn't a punishment, but what she had to do when I took all of the things away is, okay, you have 30 minutes of sound bowls to connect with yourself. And then everybody in the house gets to get this gift from you. It was wonderful.
Beautiful.
She did that for, I think, 2 months or so. Now she's like a, proficient in sound bowls.
It's diversified her career pathways.
Exactly. Which we tried to do, we're going to do later. And when I did it, though, I made sure that it wasn't like, did you do your sound bowls? I told them this. You have been given the greatest gift of your childhood, which was very, very painful. You overcoming this You have the opportunity to be one of the most loving, empathetic, understanding, helpful people on this planet that have gone through what you have gone through. This is a gift. I said some of the greatest people on this earth have had the most traumatic
for sure.
childhoods. And so this is why I'm telling you, your work is to work on you. And that is going to be your work until the day that you die. And I'm here to help you do that. That's my role. That's what I get to do, is help you work and heal what's going on internally. That's your lifelong work.
And facilitate the potential within you. In our 3D reality, often is emphasized as career and material wealth.
Correct.
And as we move into the paradigm that I look at, which is none of that means anything if we are not internally well.
Amen.
And to have someone who is helping you nurture that is such a gift. My mom always used to say that every kid is so different and they have different needs and you have to parent them all a little differently. And I agree with that. In our family, it often felt sometimes like double standards, or people allowed different levels of leeway or opportunity based on their specific needs. But I do think as I get older, sometimes I wish my parents would have slowed down a bit, and just sort of like really recognized I'm very different than my siblings. We're all very different. They did that really well. They let us really be individuals, which I greatly appreciate. But I think I challenge a lot of their comfort zone. And so it's interesting to witness where even recently we still have conversations in which I'm like, I just wish you would support how much courage it takes to choose a creative life.
Oh, well said. Well said.
Instead of asking me to go back in a box that makes you feel more comfortable, or you would like me to be more financially secure, you would like certain things for me. This is what my soul needs, and I need you to fiercely support the courage it takes to fight for this life.
Whew. All right. So as the parent, I feel it's powerful, first of all. I feel I'm like in your mom's body right now and I want to cry. I can feel it.
My friend just had a baby boy and she's like, I really wanted a girl. And I was like, I think I'm my mom's worst nightmare. I really think, like, I don't know. Like, I think I challenge a lot of things in my family. So, you know, you get what you need, I guess, sometimes, but it's not super easy over here.
So, and I know you do recognize this, it's the way she knows how to love you.
100%.
Right? She doesn't know how to love you any other way. Back to your poignant statement about we have been taught to raise our children for the material world so that they have material success to alleviate their pain, right? That's what we've been taught. And so what if we were to reframe that and shift that to focusing on giving them the tools that they need and to be emotionally sovereign and whole and able to have relationships that are strong and authentic and beneficial. If we could reframe this, we would be doing them such a greater service, because what you're saying and what I also believe is that we come here with a knowing of what we should be doing. We all have it. And sometimes even that's not knowing. But you know what I mean? Like that's also a thing too. But we come here, we'll be guided to where we need to be. And so where we really need our parents' help. But the thing about that is that a lot of parents are not doing that work themselves. So they don't know how to.
Right.
help.
And they're operating, I know, from their best intentions, but I also believe we're living in really radically different times.
We are at 100%.
And the tools needed are much bigger. There is no guarantee of upward mobility in this new normal. There is no guarantee of a lot of those things we thought were happening, which, you know, not necessarily were not necessarily happening, but we thought they were happening more.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And now we're in a place where we're starting to really see beneath the veil of how much this country is built on wealth and whiteness. But beyond that, knowing that we're living in new times, what we really have to focus on is if most people are at some point going to be a climate refugee, if most people at some point are going to touch into a lot of discomfort that this next world version of a world is going to bring, we need to be giving our children tools to be radically resilient
Yes.
and self-reliant, and to learn how to self-soothe instead of relying on these devices or whatever else we're doing to dysregulate nervous systems. I think the biggest gift we can give kids today is the ability to know how to regulate their nervous system and to how to stand strong in the face of discomfort.
Yes. Oh, yes. Keep going. Yes.
No,
Yes.
it's what I just think about all the
Yes.
time, because as all of my friends are having kids, I am applaud the courage, because I find every day to be like, what world am I bringing someone into? It all feels very chaotic to me and hard to imagine doing that at this current moment. So I have their sort of fearlessness or this calling that they want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm concerned about, even just in LA, the fires this year, or what's happening in Korea, is that all of us are going to be touched by the very minimum climate next 50 years. And if everyone is going to have a feeling of, which thank God our homes were okay, but both had to evacuate our homes and had that feeling of potentially everything behind. And I have lots of friends who did lose everything. And it's a pretty stressful, pretty terrible feeling. And I don't wish it on anyone, but I think it's something that's going to be very much a part of how we navigate our future.
Agreed. Can we just segue for a moment? As you brought
Please.
something up that I think is really important, and it is about being taught how to be in relationship with others. One of the things that I felt really that I'm present to right now is how many of us don't know how to show up for our friends that have lost their homes. And when I say show up, it's like, of course you text. I'm so sorry. I feel, if you need anything, I can't tell you how many texts I got. If you need anything, just let me know. But really, are we really equipped to really show up? Who do I need to call to just ask, how are you? Mm-hmm. That simple sentence is so powerful. And I now know how powerful it is, because I needed people to ask me how I was doing, not just not in the fires per se, but just with the kids. How are you doing? Just checking in on me. But back to the fires, it shows me, like, some friends, they have to overcompensate for those who don't know how to communicate with them. And I feel it's a feeling. I'm not upset. I'm like, ooh, how can we learn? How can we teach these tools of how to be in relationship with each other on this planet?
I think showing up even when we don't even know what to say. Like, unfortunately, I'm faced with a lot of people in their 30s who have cancer. And it's been something that I've been going through. I think I have disproportionately more friends affected than a lot of my peers. Some are in remission, some are just diagnosed, some are terminal. And as I've been navigating this in my life, I know that I'm not always going to say the perfect thing, because a lot of times when you're in these situations, we're in our 30s, we're talking about often our futures, our worlds. And if your friend may not have a future, sometimes I'll be in these conversations. So you want to be honest and authentic about what's going on for you, but at the same time, be cognizant that they're living with a different reality. And then after you leave, you're like, did I say the wrong thing? Or was I unintentionally insensitive? Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to the point where I've had to get comfortable with, I might make a mistake, and that's okay. But me avoiding it or not showing up is not okay.
Right. Exactly.
And we have a lot of friends that haven't shown up.
Yeah. Because they're paralyzed. They don't know how to. So even them understanding the beauty of what you just said, you don't have to say the perfect thing. Just being there. Just checking in. How are you?
And acknowledging if you fucked up. Like, that's the other thing, is we have some friends that have said some crazy things, mutual friends of my friends who are ill, and the lack of sort of awareness around, I'm sorry, or that was inappropriate, or, it's not about me, that type of thing. But it's very revealing when you go through really hard stuff of who has toolkits and who doesn't. And it's not a judgment because we all can build a toolkit.
Correct.
It's just about that's not something we emphasize in our culture. So the goal is what you're doing with your children, which I think is incredible, is you're giving them the toolkit that they're not at 30 going to go to therapy and develop. They're going to grow into their 30s with it.
Yeah, that's the goal. Thank you. I'm loving it. By the way, it's fun. It really shifts it really shifts. We talk through everything. I'm trying to remember what happened, but it was something about why someone didn't do the dishes, and we went into the whole emotional breakdown of what she was thinking, and we just laughed and we had such a great time. That would have been a punishment. That would have been a slamming of a door. That would have been so many things. That would have been me belittling or my mother belittling. Anyways, point is, it can be fun. Also, none of us know what we're doing here. We don't have to take this shit so seriously. How about
No.
that?
Also, kids can tell you what they need when they feel respected and heard and comfortable to communicate. They tell you what they need.
Exactly. That's true. They do. They do. I really want to know how they feel about these last 4 years in our lives. I recently asked them if I could adopt them when they turn 18, because I'm their legal guardian right now. And I didn't adopt them for personal reasons. And I realized that I'd like to adopt them once they're 18 so that they know they're with me, but that I am their home. And it was really beautiful. We had that moment together. Yeah, we all hugged. It was kind of special.
Really special.
Mm-hmm. So I have 5 kids.
You have 5 kids. You're an unbelievable mother in the literal sense and then in the proverbial sense, because a lot of what I've also been trying to help people understand is that mothering is beyond having physical children. Being a mother, the archetype exists in all these different forms on being a physical and literal mother, but you are a mother. Like the way that you show up in the world, you're a nurturing and healing force for good.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that, and I appreciate that viewing. I want to share something about November, because I feel like
Please.
spending some time in November, aka my greatest teacher, is we have come to know as an adult that she is, listen, we don't know about labels and names, and it doesn't matter how we feel about them, but it really helps us understand ourselves. And she has come to know that she's a highly sensitive person. There's a documentary on it if we don't know what that is, and is on the spectrum to some degree, autism. And finding that out at 24 years old has been the greatest gift. She broke down in tears when she found out, of joy, because she was able to understand herself more. And so what I've made it my job, by the way, I raised her with this whole materialistic, you need to do this. My creative entrepreneurial self was like, oh, you're good at that? Okay, let's do that. I mean, come on, we're going to win. Like, that was always my motto.
Right.
Borrowing that from Beth Ann Hardison. And then I realized I'm pushing her to be something. This is not what she's here for. She's not here. She might end up building $1 million business, but that's not her focus right now. Her focus is understanding who she is. And she's a love. She's a beautiful, beautiful soul. So what I do is I study. I learn what it's like to be in her shoes. She sends me podcasts. She sends me memes. And I'm just really enjoying learning who my daughter is, instead of me trying to put her in this box that I need her to be in so that I can feel safe. Because that's it. We all want to feel safe in this world. And I need my daughter to be okay in order for me to feel safe.
Yes. If her check boxes are checked, then she's safe, and then I'm safe, and I can stop worrying. And those boxes are an illusion.
They're an illusion. Or not
But I
really.
also want to point out,
Yeah.
it's interesting that you got pregnant at 24
Yeah.
and that at 24 she got her diagnosis.
Yes. Yes. Right? That's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Very. I also want to go back. We had mentioned something earlier that you wanted to extrapolate on further that we haven't yet, was you had talked about part of why you had her and what you've learned from her is cycle breaking or changing. Can you just tell us a little bit more?
Raising her as a single mother for me meant that I was financially the sole parent responsible for November. So that means that I was the only one making decisions for her. I was the only one paying for everything. That I come from a long line of women, like many people do, who relied on marriage to save them from, save them, to
Yeah.
make sure that they were able to survive. It was the form of survival. And from the time I can remember, literally, maybe as an adult, not as a child, but my mother was always like, oh, you can marry him. You can marry him. Oh, you can marry him. And I would just be like, Mom, I don't want to marry any of these people that you're talking about.
No,
And
always.
and I think I was more like a romantic and needed to be in love, but for her it was about stability and security and being able to live this life. You needed to be married.
I've just clocked into this in my own life because my mom harps a lot about me being single.
Okay.
And then recently my sister and I were talking and I finally connected it all, but I think there's a subtext. I don't know if it's conscious or not conscious, but an idea that she's worried about my financial well-being. And I was like, oh, is this why we're pushing the dating stuff so much? Is this why we're pushing? And it's a very
It's under there.
patriarchal, crazy way of viewing the world. And as I've told my mom, my poor mother, and many times I've been like, I've decentered men so deeply from my life. It is not a driver. It's not a motivator. It is an additive, a value add, but it's not what I think about when I get up every day to do work or think about anything in my life. I think about what I want. What a radical way.
She has no understanding of what it's like to be in your body. They came here, they could not, what was it, 1980, whatever it was, before a woman could apply for a loan without her husband's signature?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you know how
Yeah.
that was like yesterday, right? We were
No, there's also still stuff where my mom calls and she can't unless my dad gets on the phone. There's still stuff that happens where it's in his name, the husband's name.
So she can't understand and compute. Neither can my mom. My mom's 77 years old. So for her, it's like, this is the way. And when she do that, as recent as a week ago, I would find myself sometimes feeling disappointed that she hasn't seen how much I've done. Look at what I have created in my life. I did this by dreaming this into being. Aren't you proud of me? And I want her to just be proud of me instead of feeling like, okay, well, you made it this far, but you need to be tethered to a man in order to move forward. But I realize now that she can't help it.
My mom, at some point, I was like, I have been single now longer than you were ever single. I go, so you have no understanding of what it is like to build a life on your terms, prioritizing yourself, living by yourself. So I was like, I don't think you can understand or relate to the experience. So I love you, but I also don't think you are the person to be giving advice when at this point you already had a child or two, you got married younger, you've now lived her life now. She's been married to my dad longer than she was ever alone. So I'm like, you don't understand what it is to be single anymore, which is okay. But I'm very happy with my life. And if someone makes it that much better, they're 100% welcome.
Exactly. That'd be great.
Be great.
That'd be very cool.
Okay, but back to being a single mom and breaking the cycle of relying on a man as a parent.
So basically what I did, oh wow. So I'm raising this child on my own, and at first I was super resentful. I couldn't believe that I chose to have a child with this person. how could they not show up for us? And then there was a period in my life where I started an organization called Shine on Sierra Leone, and I had no business starting an organization, to be clear. I was a single mom. November was 7 years old. Our bank account was always near zero. It was always a stress to pay rent. And there was a period in my life where I'd gone to start this organization. Things were not going so well. It was stressful. And I started to feel this feeling inside where the work I was doing in Sierra Leone, West Africa, was not working. Something was off. And people would say, oh, the work you're doing in Sierra Leone is so beautiful, but I felt like a fake. And I couldn't quite figure out why. And so I've always been spiritual, deeply spiritual. And I looked up and I said, please tell me what I am missing. What do I need to know? And I started to listen. And that looked like, I happened to start meditating at that time. I was meditating daily. And then I ran across a book. And that book talked about shifting your mindset and only focusing on what you wanted and what felt good, and putting no attention on what you didn't want and what didn't feel good. And so I decided to try this on, and I did it like a Jedi. There were no games. And so what that looked like for me is I stopped watching the news. I let go of friendships that were rooted in complaining about a certain thing. So have you ever had a friendship where you get together and you talk about how hard it is to find a man, or how hard it is to find a job? I had different friendships that were just like, that's what we did. We complained about how hard life was in this way, shape, or form. And I kind of drifted out of those relationships because I didn't want to say, hey, I'm trying on this new thing. So I just kind of disappeared. And then November's father, I completely forgave him. I'm talking about really not like nice, nasty forgave him.
No,
truly
let it go.
Let it go. That meant that I was driving an hour to and from, taking her to see him every weekend with no complaints. I do remember him one time saying to November, your mom has really changed, because she told me. And I did all of these things, shifted my life. And I would say in about 3 months, I started to feel different. In a year, my life was unrecognizable. I had been given a company, literally been handed a company, a casting company, by someone that I worked for. And he started to give me his overflow jobs, and so much so that I was able to create my own company. That is not something that happens often. And my relationships, friendships, deep, rich friendships where we lifted each other up. It was like I was living in a dream. And when that happened, at the time, I got a call from a school in Sierra Leone. At the time, the school, when we first started, it was ranked number 736 out of 736 schools. And what I had forgotten is I had created a list of affirmations with the school when we first started that the children would say every day. There were 10 of them. All of my needs are met. I have friends around the world. I'm an excellent student. I'm a sponge for knowledge. And they would say these in the morning and the afternoon. But they had the magic ingredient. They would sing them. They would dance them. They love saying these affirmations. And so they have been doing this for about, I would say, 4 or 5 years. By the time I got this call, and I'm going through my own metamorphosis in life, and I get a call finding out that the school is no longer ranked 736 out of 736 schools, but is now ranked number 5 out of 736 schools.
You're gonna make me cry. So beautiful.
And when I got this information, I started to cry. And it was like I got a tap on the shoulder that said, this is it. The inner development is as, if not more important than what you see externally.
Changes how you see the world. It changes how the world reacts to you.
It does. And so once I got that, and I'm living in this life that for the first time, I don't have to start to strategize on the 20th of the month about how I'm going to pay my rent the next month, I realized, wow, if this is the same way for me, this is the same way for everybody. We all have the ability to create the life that we want, but we don't know it. We've never been taught it. And so I started to take my focus off of what he wasn't doing for me. It didn't matter. I was able to create the life for me and my daughter, and I went in and I focused on maintaining that level of seeing the world with this beautiful eye from my beautiful filter, instead of seeing the world from my filter of everything that is wrong. And as long as I keep my focus, and I'll say keep, because it's a muscle that is always being developed every single day.
Well, it's maintenance. You cannot think you're 3 months in, everything will change. You have to continually feed your brain and have it wire in the direction of life you want to see. And so rewiring your brain takes such an intense amount of commitment.
Yes.
But if you commit,
Yes.
your life fucking changes.
It changes. It changes. This is law. This is law. And so I was so thankful when I got this download and I got this experience, because I realized it's not about me marrying anyone, that I have now broken this whole lineage in the cycle of needing someone else to live a life worth living.
Woof.
And so it's something I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of this.
You should be.
I feel deeply grateful. And of course, I welcome a partner if the right partner comes into fold and we uplift each other and we make each other better. Beautiful. Let's do it.
This has been the best convo. Just like leaving with a full heart and crying and awe and had chills. And I'm so grateful you exist. And I'm so grateful the universe brought us together.
I'm working on, when someone gives me a compliment, of not immediately giving them a compliment right back.
No, take it in.
And I also want to say that I just value and cherish our friendship. It means so much to me. I feel fully seen and valued, and I appreciate being able to see you fully and totally. Thank you.
I feel the same. I'm so excited for everyone to get to know you and hear this story and this episode. Will you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes. They can find me on Instagram. I'm there. And at Tiffany Persons, TiffanyPersons. And I think that's where I'll be.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Boulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.